Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea. What if the key to breaking the cycle of addiction wasn't about fighting your urges head on? What if it was about learning to mindfully unwind the very habit loops that keep us all feeling trapped? So here's our game plan. First, we're going to unpack that automatic habit loop that pretty much runs in the background of our lives. Then we'll peek under the hood at the neuroscience of craving to see what's actually fueling it. From there, we'll discover how just one simple pause can change everything, learn a really cool technique called urge surfing, and finally, see how this whole path can lead to a state of profound stillness. All right, let's get into it. First up, we've got to understand the engine behind all of this, the automatic habit loop. It's actually a survival mechanism that helps us learn. But when it goes a little haywire, it can trap us in these cycles that we desperately want to break. Okay, let me ask you this. Have you ever been scrolling on your phone, just reading one piece of bad news after another, feeling more and more anxious, but for some reason, you just can't seem to stop? It's a weirdly familiar feeling for a lot of us. And yeah, it actually has a name. It's called doom scrolling, and it is a perfect example of a modern, really powerful habit loop in action. Deep down, we know it feels bad, but something automatic just keeps pulling us right back in. So how does that trap actually work? Well, this simple little cycle is firing off in our brains all the time. It all kicks off with a trigger, a feeling like stress or boredom or even just a notification on your phone. That trigger then sparks a behavior, like reaching for your phone or something else. That behavior delivers a temporary reward, maybe just a moment of distraction. And here's the kicker. Your brain remembers this little solution, which makes the entire loop stronger and way more automatic for the next time. So, what's the fuel for this habit engine? What makes that loop so incredibly hard to resist? To really get it, we need to look at our brain's own chemistry, specifically the powerful neuroscience behind craving. We've all heard about dopamine, right? It gets called the pleasure molecule. But its job is actually way more about motivation than it is about pleasure. Dopamine is the chemical that screams, "Hey, pay attention. This is important for survival." And this little nugget reveals something crucial. The biggest hit of dopamine doesn't come from the reward itself. It comes from the anticipation of it. Our brain is really hooked on the craving. And get this, over time, as a habit gets locked in, the brain doesn't even need that big conscious dopamine spike anymore to run the program. It just switches to a lower, more habitual mode, running completely on autopilot. Now, think about where those initial feelings of stress and anxiety even come from. A lot of the time, they start in a part of the brain called the default mode network. This is basically our mind-wandering mode. It's constantly replaying the past and worrying about the future. You could almost think of this network as a factory for the very triggers that kickstart our addictive habit loops in the first place. Okay, so we've got this powerful, automated loop, and it's fueled by our brain's own reward system. That sounds pretty tough to beat, right? So how do we even begin to break free? Well, the answer isn't about more willpower. It's about learning the incredible power of the pause. This is where mindfulness comes in and just completely changes the game. It teaches us to see that we are not our thoughts, and we are not our urges. They're just mental events, kind of like clouds passing through the sky. They show up, they hang around for a bit, and then they drift away. The real practice is learning to see yourself as the big, open sky, not the temporary clouds. This insight creates a moment of space. Right there, between the trigger and the automatic behavior, mindfulness inserts a pause. And in that pause, that's where we get our freedom back. We can suddenly see the urge for what it is, just a sensation, and we can choose how to respond instead of just react. That pause, it isn't just a nice idea. It's a skill you can actually train. And one of the most effective ways to practice it when a craving really hits is a technique that completely reframes how we relate to those uncomfortable urges. It's called urge surfing. And the idea is so simple, but it's profound. Instead of fighting a craving or trying to shove it away, which, let's be honest, usually makes it stronger, you treat it like a wave. You just notice it with curiosity. Where do you feel it in your body? Is it a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach? You just observe these physical sensations, using your breath as a surfboard to stay steady, and you ride the wave, trusting that, like any wave in the ocean, it will build up, it will crest, and then it will naturally fade away all on its own. Now, breaking free from destructive habits is absolutely life-changing, but the path of mindfulness doesn't just stop there. It actually opens the door to something much, much bigger, a deep, unshakable sense of stillness. With consistent practice, that default mode network we talked about, the constant chatterbox in our minds, it actually begins to quiet down. That nonstop internal monologue that generates so much of our stress just starts to fade into the background. And as the mind gets quieter, something truly remarkable can happen to our sense of who we are. That rigid boundary between me over here and the world out there, it starts to soften, to dissolve. This experience, which is sometimes called self-transcendence, is this feeling of no longer being such an isolated individual. This is really the ultimate horizon of the practice. People describe a feeling of deep connection, of being part of a larger whole. So you see, the goal isn't just to get rid of the cravings, it's to discover something amazing in their place, a profound, lasting stillness, and a feeling of being truly connected to the world. So, the journey of just unwinding a single habit loop can lead us somewhere truly unexpected. It's not just about stopping a behavior we don't like. It's about fundamentally changing our relationship with our own minds. And that change offers not just freedom from addiction, but a profound sense of peace and belonging. The question it leaves us with is this: what could you discover in that stillness?